E aí, Survivors, tudo bem com vocês? Hoje trazemos uma entrevista com o diretor do documentário que conta a história do filme de Resident Evil, dirigido por Romero, esse filme que nunca viu a luz do dia. O querido do Brandon Salisbury concordou em responder as nossas perguntas aqui para a comunidade brasileira, então vamos descobrir um pouquinho mais. Não se esqueça, se você gosta de conteúdo assim, de repente considera te inscrever aqui no canal, e se tu já é acompanhante do canal do Review, do site, compartilha para aquele teu amigo que gosta também do conteúdo. A entrevista vai rolar naquele formatinho que vocês já conhecem. Eu gravo as perguntas aqui, o Brandon responde e grava as respostas pra gente, a gente junta tudo num vídeo pra vocês aqui editado, tá bom? Sem mais delongas, vamos lá! Primeiramente, muito obrigado, Brandon, por topar conversar aqui com o Review. A gente tá muito feliz com a oportunidade. Conta pra gente aqui um pouquinho da tua história com o cinema, como surgiu esse interesse e como foi criada Aqui, 13 Films.
Hi everyone, I'm Brandon Salisbury, the director of George A. Romero's Resident Evil, a documentary. I'd just like to thank everyone for allowing me this opportunity to answer questions, and I hope you enjoy. I first got a desire to be a filmmaker probably around 1993. I saw the making of Jurassic Park and I was absolutely astonished to kind of get my first understandings of how films were made. That continued throughout the years. I started watching various American programs that would actually highlight special effects, filmmaking techniques. I can remember seeing up behind the scenes of John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, Godzilla, Independence Day. I consumed all of these various behind the scenes and stuff. So I was already getting a love for it, but I didn't understand at the time that this was the career I wanted to do. It wasn't until the year 2000 when I saw back-to-back Dawn of the Dead and the remake of Night of the Living Dead by Tom Savini. And it was just in that moment I was like, you know, I want to be a film director. You know, it was seeing George Romero's films that that just late at night I kind of came out early in the morning and just proclaimed that, you know, I'm gonna be a film director.
Agora que a gente te conhece melhor, eu gostaria de saber sobre videogames. Você foi um jovem que jogou muito Resident Evil? Qual é a sua relação com a série? E tem algum jogo favorito dentro da franquia?
I started with Resident Evil 2 back in 1998. I can still remember receiving my PlayStation back in Christmas of 1997. And I can still remember the games. I remember Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, the Lost World Jurassic Park video game, and then a buddy of mine actually got me Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But right around that time, America started their campaign for Resident Evil 2. Now, we didn't get the live action commercial that George Romero did, but we got kind of like Americanized. There's like a zombie walking through an alley. They're showing clips from the video game, and I just remember thinking like, wow, this is everything that I always wanted in a video game. I always wanted a horror video game, and to me, Resident Evil was the first truly modern like horror game. But there is something about Resident Evil that just felt like a horror game, like a real true to life horror game, and it felt like you were watching a movie. So I was absolutely loved that commercial. I can still remember you know, the announcement at the end, you know, Resident Evil 2 coming for the Sony PlayStation, and that really spoke to me. I felt like, wow, this is no holds bar horror video game. It feels like George Romero. So I never knew Resident Evil existed until the sequel. So I got to play the sequel, Resident Evil 2, absolutely loved it. And I became an immediate fan within the first playthrough. And then I just remember wanting to get my own copy, so I was playing it all the time. Then I bought the first game and started going through that, and that's all I did for 1998 was just play Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2.
Em nossa troca de e-mails, você admitiu pra gente que também gosta de Street Fighter. Quais outros jogos você gosta e quais outros jogos você gostaria de fazer um documentário como esse?
I'm still kind of a novice with Street Fighter. I actually fell in love with Street Fighter. I played a little bit of it as a kid, first off. You know, Street Fighter 2, that was on every system back in the 90s. I didn't really become a fan of Street Fighter until the Street Fighter Assassin's Fist film came out about, what was that, 9 years ago. And just watching that film, seeing a fan interpretation of the games, and showing just how much story and emotion and drama there could. But I am looking forward to Street Fighter 6. That way I can finally jump into a game fresh off release and, you know, kind of learn it as I go. As for other games, I don't really get into too many series anymore, because one of the problems with me is I like very specific types of experiences. So really enjoy Final Fantasy, but I really enjoyed the Super Nintendo games and the PlayStation games. I love the original Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII. I like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. That one is just another, that's a 10 out of 10 game. Metal Gear, I love the Metal Gear Solid games. I love Silent Hill. Clock Tower is another one. Dino Crisis. I love Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare. You know, I started with the Nintendo, went to Sega Genesis, but still played the Super Nintendo. But Sony PlayStation, the original Sony PlayStation, was where I really got deep into gaming. And a lot of the classics that are on there are games that I grew up with and I fell in love with. As for if I ever wanted to do any other documentaries, I don't know, honestly. I don't look at myself as a documentary filmmaker. In fact, that was one of the things that I wanted to do with this project, was that I didn't want it to just be your typical YouTube video or even a typical documentary where it's just a bunch of people, you know, talking heads and showing, cutting to like archive video and stuff. Like, we wanted to do something so creative and different to kind of get people's attention. And I think that kind of happened once people seen the teaser trailer, that the presentation on this is meant to be a lot more than what you would normally see in a documentary. So if I ever had to do another documentary that was kind of surrounding a video game, I'd probably want to do something with Mortal Kombat. I would probably want to do something with like the origins of the game, but I honestly don't know. It would have to speak to me. You know, I don't want to ever do a project just to do it. I want to have a lot of love and passion behind it.
Agora sobre o documentário. É curioso saber que teremos um documentário falando a respeito de algo que permeia a imaginação dos fãs, como é o caso do roteiro de George A. Romero para Resident Evil. Conta aí pra gente como é que surgiu essa ideia de escrever e produzir esse documentário.
Originally the idea for the documentary came from a YouTube video that I had done back in early 2000. I want to say it was February 2019, you know, so it wasn't too long after the Resident Evil 2 remake. And I did about like a 20-25 minute video that just talked about George Romero's Resident Evil script. I was never satisfied with it. The quality was low. I was still learning how to do YouTube and stuff like that, so I immediately wanted to redo it. So around the fall of 2019, I started doing a little bit more research and thinking out more about what I wanted to do for the YouTube video. It's like March of 2020, I saw the announcement for George's scripts were, you know, all kind of recovered. He had over like 50. I wanted to try and get access to them. Well, unfortunately, the same month that I discovered all this and was expanding my research, the pandemic hit. So I couldn't get access to the scripts. Everything was shut down. So what I did for 2020 was I started making connections with people. I actually teamed up with Robbie McGregor, who originally wrote this really long, I think 20-page article on the making of the first Resident Evil film. I kind of reapproached them, tracked them down. That took a little bit of time because we hadn't been in touch in like 10 years. So, hey, do you want to make this with me? I'm thinking that we could probably make like a good 40-minute video about this. And then Robbie and I started finding even more, and we're going into like fall 2020 when I first spoke to Suze Romero and told her my idea that I think there's enough material that we could do a full-length documentary. And she wanted to hear more. So 2021, we started to have basically a script, you know, where we were like, you know what? We could probably do this where, you know, we can make the interviews feel like they're inside of the mansion, and we could go film at a mansion and kind of connect all this together. And I started to have this this idea that it didn't have to just be taking interviews and trying to make them connect that way. We could actually make this look like everything was recovered from the mansion, you know, make the articles and the concept art, make it look all disgusting and aged like it had just been sitting there for 20 years and that it was kind of being rediscovered, which for a lot of people, that's how it is, you know, a lot of people just didn't even know that George was going to do Resident Evil. So this was kind of this really unique look at how to do a documentary, I felt. You know, documentaries normally don't have this much work put into it and thought, where we were actually going to go shoot at an actual mansion and, you know, create props and, you know, make everything look this elaborate. So, and, you know, I was told that, you know, it wouldn't matter how much work would be put into it, but we did it anyway. So we continued developing it throughout 2021. The fall, I finally got to read all the scripts. So now we kind of had like a lot of the final pieces locked in to double check our research. And into 2022, I contacted Capcom, got their approval. Suze gave me her blessings on the project, and then we just started steamrolling from there. We had a couple delays, kind of, you know, that's typical of even a Hollywood film and being on an independent project like this. So that's how the project started. It was a small YouTube video, and then it turned into this big documentary. And